Welcome to Creating Calm Parenting with Mind, Body, and Spirit. I am Corinne Cayce, your co-host. I'm an integral leadership coach, a mother of two, and a lifelong student of the Edgar Cayce readings. And I am here with my friend and co-host, Arlene. Hi, Arlene.
Hi, Corinne. It's Dr. Arlene Dijamco. I'm an integrative physician, a pediatrician, and a cranial osteopath, and mom of four. And today we are going to talk about color in the Cayce readings and talk about those perspectives and what it has to do with consciousness and manifestation and healing and what stages your kids are going through, what stages in life you're going through. So we're going to go through all these different aspects and have a very intriguing discussion. So before we
Mm-hmm.
jump into that, Corinne is going to open with our opening meditation.
Yes. Thanks so much, Arlene. I can't wait to have this conversation. Before we do, let's just take a moment, as we always do, to tune in to ourselves and this moment. If you can close your eyes, please feel comfortable to do so, or if not, just let your attention turn inward. Find your feet, wiggle each one of your 10 toes. Let your awareness slowly travel up through your legs, to your seat, to your belly, up through your torso, the beating of your heart. Feel your back body, your arms, hands, fingers, up to your throat, neck. Let your awareness scan up the back of your head, over the top of your head, and cascade down your face gently like a waterfall, relaxing each one of those facial muscles that work so hard for us all the time to help us communicate and express ourselves. And let your awareness settle back down into the beating of your heart. And during this time that's so busy for so many of us, let's just take 3 deep cleansing breaths together. All right. Thank you so much. So, our topic today, as so many topics in the Edgar Cayce readings are, is both simple, full of science and lived experience, and also mind-bogglingly expansive and deep and groundbreaking in terms of how we might be able to integrate this into our lives, into our families' lives, and what's happening in our world right now. So, to set us off on this conversation, we'd like to read an excerpt from the Edgar Cayce readings. And this comes from reading 967-3. It was given for a woman who's 49 years old on April 14th, 1943. And this reading says, "Color is vibration, like overtones in music. These ye have applied occasionally. Then use them in attuning thy body consciousness to those vibrations about thee, which may in some instances take on color also. Use not for self alone, but using, do not abuse." So Arlene and I were struck just initially by what a common question it was to ask Edgar Cayce in a reading. What colors should I be wearing? What colors do I resonate with? What musical tone and musical instrument should I be listening to or playing? And just how many people are kind of aware of the connection between music and color almost at an intuitive level, and also its power to impact how we feel in our world. And I think as we read through these readings, what I was struck by initially was just like the reality of the shared vibration between sound and color, and really like how everything is kind of vibration, which we know. And that's certainly a theme in the Edgar Cayce readings of just our the power that we have to work with vibration and manipulate it toward healing, and also that everything is vibration and our bodies are just kind of these instruments that are attuning through different senses and to different vibratory levels to what it is that we're receiving and that color is vibration, which is, you know, fact and crazy at some level. Yeah.
It is fascinating because everything in our life we can think about as color, can think
Hmm.
about as sound, and it's
Yeah.
really because of the way our body perceives these vibrations that we divide them into categories of the color, which is in the visual spectrum, and then
Right.
sound, what our ears are capable of picking up on. And there's so many other vibrations that we are able to pick up on it with like more subtle perception. And I mean,
Right.
elephants hear way, way, way low pitched sounds that aren't detectable to our ears. So there is all this color that makes our lives, our reality, our universe, and we're perceiving just a small spectrum of it through our eyes and our ears. But once we
Hmm.
realize that everything is color and everything is sound, once we have that understanding, then we can start to use it more consciously in our
Hmm.
lives. And it's so interesting to note that, no pun intended, but to note that what what Casey said in the readings of what people were asking him, "What colors and notes do I vibrate to?" That was
Right.
such a big question for people. There were pages and pages of the same question that people had, and I was thinking, I was like, "Why is he asking them to be their personal stylist? You know, what is the purpose of this question?" But then once I started to look at more deeply, it's because it represents our expression of ourselves. It is an
Hmm.
expression of our own consciousness, and so that's why these questions were important to each person. Every person has a unique expression of the just the divine, the stillness. And so you each person has their own essence. And
Hmm.
we have like shared sounds and colors in the family. And then we
Hmm.
also have like each town, each city, each place, Casey also said, has its own color and notes. And that's so true. And that's part of what makes the beauty in this world. And
Hmm.
and if we understand that, then we can support that for ourselves and for our families. I mean, I think
Hmm.
about just as the kids go through the different stages and as we do too, our
Hmm.
colors that we're drawn to can shift. So I'm just
Yeah.
thinking about my own kids. I have 4 girls. So when they were in elementary school, they picked brighter colors and more varied colors. And then one by one, as they entered into middle school, I saw that their color choices became more subdued. And of course, that was
Hmm.
a style, but it happened for each of them. And then they also started to bring in more dark colors. So, black or shades of it. And when they were in
Hmm.
elementary school, they never wanted to wear black. But then in middle school, they found it really grounding to wear that. And
Hmm.
they started to incorporate
Hmm.
it into their wardrobe. But I read somewhere that it can be, yes, it's grounding, but to be balanced, it's like to have some variation in your color. So you still have various colors in your life. So it's not all
Hmm.
just one color because it can throw it off. And I feel like that's maybe what Casey was saying, like use it, but don't abuse it. So let it still have some harmony and expression. So
Hmm.
it's just a way. A it's not judging a person in terms of what they wear, but to me, it's a way of understanding yourself or one of your kids and what they're going through. Because if they're reaching for some of
Hmm.
those grounding colors, they need that in their lives. And then to
Hmm.
notice, like, are they still have like pops of other color in their lives, or has it become so much more in the darker shades that they're avoiding color in their life, and so maybe they need
Hmm.
more support. It's not an absolute, it's just more, generality in terms of understanding.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think about my children with this as well, which both of them have for their since they were so little, a real sense of what of what colors they want to wear and what colors they want to have around them. And I think as they've grown and developed and have more stress or anxiety, more specific ways that they're being asked to show up in the world, whether through playing sports or, going to certain events or whatever, just really and I think as parents we can be worried and want the best for them and like, are they okay, and how can I help make sure they are okay, and bringing their best to whatever situation they're facing. And for me, a kind of power place that I've found is really touching in with them around like, how do you want to express yourself here? Like, what clothes, what color, what clothes do you want to wear here? And as much as it can seem like, this kind of superficial, maybe materialistic thing, really allowing them
Mhm.
to express themselves in an empowering way through the clothes that they're wearing, I feel like brings this level of confidence and attunement to themselves in their life right now through doing this research for into color in the readings, of really recognizing, wow, I think that's why I want that for them so much, of just like really feeling themselves in this way. And I think when Edgar Cayce was offering, it will be best for you to wear blue or white or all of these things, this wasn't like his consciousness overlaying it on the other person. This was him sort of attuning to their consciousness and the longing for expression that their own consciousness was looking
Mhm.
for, and how they want to grow and be present in their world, and naming that for them and inviting them into that in equal parts with music. Like we've been saying, sound
Mhm.
and color going together in that way, and sort of recognizing that there is this part of us that is sacred, in this way, in this imaginative way of that also is a deep attuning, and that attuning can lead to deeper healing or wholeness in ourselves, and really embracing that for ourselves, noticing, like Arlene was saying, when there's like a lack of something or a dearth of it. I know for myself this time of year, just going outside can bring so much of that vibratory, like sustenance that I need, of just kind of looking into the forest, looking at the flowers that are blooming and the bushes and sort of what's growing around me, and letting my eyes find a resting place that feels good, and noticing, what colors do I actually want to be surrounded by right now, in terms of like the blanket that I may put on my bed, or what the shirt that I put on in the morning, and just like taking a little bit more time and space to invite healing really in that way, and attunement in these tiny micro ways of caring for ourselves, I think is I think what the essence, and I would love to hear your thoughts, Arlene, on what's happening in the readings when he is giving pretty specific recommendations for where these colors, where these colored stones, listen to this kind of music, and play this sort of instrument of just like really inviting forward these parts of ourselves that we all often are pretty passive around in our lives.
Mhm. Well, I love what he says, just to feel hear the notes when you're looking at color, when you're whether, however you're using it, whether it's in a piece of art, whether it's what you're wearing, whether it's in your environment, to
Yeah.
realize that they have notes to it too. And, there's been some color research just in modern times, and
Hmm.
color research can get so detailed, but Ingrid Fettel-Lee, who is a designer, she did an incredible TED Talk that's really popular. It's called Where Joy Hides and How to Find It. And so she studied what creates joy, or what brings joy. And so one of those aspects is color. So a colorful world brings joy. And that's part of
Mm.
our diversity and the variation and the differences. And so when we think about schools or hospitals or healing environments or your place where you work, it's like, how can you create an environment that supports you, that helps to nourish you? Because those vibrations are literally feeding you. And
Mm.
when you make these conscious choices for including them in your life, then you can also just appreciate and benefit from the colors around you. It's like the universal appeal of a rainbow. So the rainbow,
Mhm.
are people so drawn to it? Well, it has color, and color
Mhm.
represents life and also has this expansive nature. And so
Mhm.
all over the world, it's like this universal language, just like music is a universal language. Color and
Yeah.
music are the same. And so they are a
Yeah.
way for us to communicate with each other. And when we go out into nature, it's a way for us to bring color into our lives because nature has color. And so, how
Mhm.
can we create our surroundings when we're indoors to bring some of that life of nature indoors as well?
Mhm.
And anytime you go out for a walk or you go out in nature, you pick flowers, these are ways of bringing color into your life. And even if we think about the food we eat, we get a colorful array. So we are literally eating the colors, we are seeing the
Mhm.
colors, we are getting the full spectrum of colors from the sunlight, and that's nourishing our souls. And we can go on and on like that. There's another
Mhm.
researcher, Jacob Lieberman, who's an optometrist and a vision and light researcher. And he encourages these self exploration exercises with color because
Mhm.
color can bring up thoughts and memories, emotions. For example, my room was orange when I grew up, had all these orange flowers on wallpaper in the 80s. You know? So immediately, anytime I think of orange, I think of my
Mhm.
room growing up. So you can
Yeah.
imagine all the different things can bring up for a person. If you just sat
Mhm.
with each color of the rainbow and just sit with it, and then just notice what it brings up for you, what sorts of thoughts, feelings, and memories, and then you can see which colors are you drawn to, which colors are more difficult for you, or maybe you kind of actually shy away from. And
Mhm.
the point is, we're actually meant to be able to get along with all the colors. I mean, some colors will be just naturally drawn to because of our essence,
Mhm.
but we can heal our relationship with colors. And I feel like in doing so, I mean, it helps us heal our relationships with each other so that we know
Mhm.
how to understand all the various colors. And that
Mhm.
understanding comes first with ourselves. So if you can get to know your relationship with each color, what it brings for you, it would be necessary for healing that relationship with those colors, and we could come up with all different ways to do that, with just like creating a color journal every day, and then
Mhm.
maybe incorporating just a little bit more of the colors you have a hard time with. Use the colors you love, but add a little bit of those other colors, just little hints of it. And then over time, you can start to see your relationship change with it. And
Mhm.
this like brings us to just the whole manifestation aspect and healing aspect of color. And I know they had talked about it in the readings, and also in
Mhm.
relationship to the Temple Beautiful, which we had talked about in another
Mhm.
episode. And
Mhm.
Corinne, would you read that passage on the REO? It says,
Mhm. From reading 281:25.
mhm,
Yes. So it says, this is from reading 281:25, and it says, "In the activities then, there were first the songs, the music, as we have indicated that ye sing, R O, which makes for the losing of even the association of the body with that save the vibrations of which the body was then composed, which made for the vibrating of same with light, that becomes color, that becomes tone, that becomes activity."
so interesting,
Yeah.
because in that intoning of the REO,
Yeah. Mhm.
yeah, that the vibration, we're bringing in that light, which creates color, and color is life, and that tone becomes activity, so becomes manifested into the physical. And so that
Right.
can really affect our physical nature, and even the
Right.
physiology of the body. So that to me is really interesting
Yeah.
in what we feel.
Yeah. Absolutely. And in talking about, when the readings talk about color and music, basically be, being vibration, just like one level of different vibration between the two. And then this reading is saying, then from the music becomes the activity, which is, the physical, what we can what we're doing out in the world. I mean, it really, and this really given specifically for the Temple Beautiful, what was happening in the Temple Beautiful, and the healing, which, when I think of the Temple Beautiful, I think of like, how are we absolutely becoming pure channels for being bearers of light and sources of healing in this world. So it's just the clearest, cleanest channel that we can be. And then it's talking so clearly about the use of color, the use of sound as an attuning process at a physical level that changes. And it makes me think a little bit of what Arlene was saying about the rainbow, that it has this sort of universal impact on everyone, where we all sort of catch our breaths and there's this mystery and wonder and power. It's like the rainbow like pulls away. I think when we're living our lives, easy for us to separate out so clearly what I'm seeing from what I'm hearing, from what I'm feeling. And there's these different senses that are kind of completely separate from each other. Or at least that's how I'm, and we can at a quantum level understand vibration and sort of the mystery of it, but it's hard to feel the breaking down of the boundaries that we use to understand our world between these different senses. And with the rainbow, it's gone for a little bit, and we can see the way that light moves through water and that it creates this prism, and that it's what's there all the time, but we don't
Mhm.
usually get to see it and experience it. And it's, what Arlene was saying about elephants hearing different things. And there are animals we know in the rainforest that can see different colors than we can see. And, in like with phosphorescence and this sort of thing, and just the breadth and depth of what's actually happening in our world that we're just seeing this little slice of, right? And that like, as we expand out into attuning to what we're drawn to at a color level, what sounds we want to make, and inviting them more in, which we can do. Here comes summer break, more time with the children, like take turns turning, choosing what music to put on and working with color at that time, and just like connect that idea, which I know we talked about during our Temple Beautiful episode as well, to this is a healing process. This is the tuning of becoming more of a channel of expression, of my pure expression in the universe, right? Doing that with our children is such a deep sense of confidence building and wholeness and wellness at every level, and knowing themselves to be themselves, and yet one with the whole, which is such a pervasive idea in the Edgar Cayce readings, right? So just so kind of exciting to think about these tangible things, working with color, whether we're painting or drawing or choosing what clothes we wear on our bodies, or what to paint our walls, or what pictures to put up around us, what music to listen to, as this really kind of spiritual way of relating to ourselves and our world.
It gives me so many ideas of how we can play and have fun and help ourselves heal. So,
Yeah,
now, I mean, just in talking about this, I wanna go home and put on some music that feels really nourishing, and
totally.
then just free stream of consciousness, like, let me just put the colors on the page that or on the canvas that represents what I'm feeling, hearing, and that can
Right.
help attune all your senses and your whole being, and, and just like the ARIOM too, it's like bringing that rainbow that's
Yeah.
always there, but bringing your awareness to it, and as you bring your awareness to it, it helps it expand, and
Right.
that's the attunement process.
Right. Absolutely. And I think about, especially for, kids that have are a little bit more hesitant to express how they're feeling or talk about what's actually going on with them, which I have a child like that, kind of constantly looking for ways into that conversation of what are you feeling right now, and how can we help process it and move it through, using color to do that through clothes and pictures and drawing and painting, and all of we want to put on the wall is can be a gateway into these types of deeper conversations, into wh- why they're choosing that and what they're feeling when they see that. And
Mhm,
just, and the same thing with music, of just really
mhm,
being intentional around that, not like this is right and this is wrong, but kind of deeply exploring what why do you want to, what do you love about this that we're listening to, or what don't you like about
mhm,
this, and really honoring the truth that comes forward
mhm,
there of, okay, let's not listen to this, or let's turn this up, and just like inviting that in as a way to contact their how they're feeling and how to deal with hard things that may be happening in our kids' lives.
It's a neat thing to know we have, that when words are not accessible, when
Yeah,
language is difficult, we can turn to a more universal language with
right.
color and sound
And
and
sound.
gain understanding that way. And
Yeah,
and and in doing so, then, we can actually help ourselves, like, have more words,
yeah.
perhaps, but I'm just thinking about, like, within the family or different groups, or if there's any difficulty communicating, it's like we can go to color and sound and communicate
Mhm,
that way. And
mhm.
just like the rainbow, we all can relate to it in some way, because sometimes words mean different things to people, but the rainbow is universal, and so
Yeah,
we can put different combinations together and communicate that way and express
mhm.
ourselves, and if we are willing to listen, not just hear, but feel and see, then we can understand ourselves more, we can understand each other more, and then that helps us know how what to do, how to approach things, what steps to take. And
Yeah,
it all starts with that understanding, with a foundation of understanding.
yeah, 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 absolutely. Well, thank you so much for this conversation today. Always just so expansive to see what arises after we, dive into these different topics. I so appreciate it, Arlene, and I have lots of great ideas and things that I want to try at home with my family. So thank you.
Thank you, Corinne, and thank you everyone for being here.